Good evening and welcome. We are glad you are with us. It is the Bill Michaels Happy Hour Bud Light live stream presented by our friends at Quick Trip, and we are glad you are with us. And we are live here at Road America. It is Happy Hour, beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, where you've got racing already getting underway in many different facets. But coming up here late in June, you're going to have the IndyCar Series. You've got the big boys that are coming here this year for the first time in a long time. You got NASCAR that's going to be rolling through this what is it, John?
4.048, but we just say 4 miles.
4 miles. I wanted to make sure we were
miles,
exactly right, but NASCAR is going to come rolling through here. John Ewert, he is the communications director here at Road America, joining us. How you been, man?
Good.
Good to be back, and good to be back without a mask, and you're going to put people out here.
Absolutely. We have no restrictions. We encourage everybody to come, spread out, have a blast. We had a good season last season. It was a great place to watch a race, very safe, outdoors, lots of great things to do for family, and we are going full tilt into 2021, and the ticket sales are very, very strong considering we have our tremendous schedule.
Now, I know that, and I used this quote from you, and I wasn't sure if I was able to use it or not, but I said over the air, Roger Penske said, when it comes to running events.
Yep. If you can't have an event at Road America, you just can't have an event anywhere.
Damn straight. So we are going to be completely packing it in. And technically, I guess you could not sell out. There's so much land here, correct?
Technically, no. I mean, we can fit a ton of people here, as we have done in the past, and even in the 70s during the Can-Am events. It's really about cars. And that's one of the things that we want to encourage people to do is carpool, especially for our NASCAR Cup Series event presented by Quick Trip. We want to make sure that everybody knows, hey, get your parking pass. Now, this is for Sunday only, the NASCAR race day.
Right.
Get your parking pass. It's only $10 if you want to park on site. So get that now if you want to park on site, because it's the amount of cars. We want to make sure that we can get the right amount of cars in here, not overcrowd people so they have to walk between too many cars or do other things. There will be off-site parking at the Sheboygan County Fairgrounds for free with a shuttle going back and forth to the track. Mm-hmm. If you've ever been to the PGA Championship at Whistling Straits or anything like that, you're familiar with that. But we want to make sure to let everybody know that, yes, parking will sell out. It is that popular an event. So get your parking now and get ready, because NASCAR Cup's going to be amazing. Now, that's for Sunday only. July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, definitely we're going to have a lot of people here, but we don't anticipate really selling out fan-wise for the event.
We are just in front of, as the screen switches over to the newly renovated Victory Lane. We're inside the Victory Lane Media Center over here, where we're broadcasting from. Now, you guys did some you guys did over the last year and a half, really since COVID hit, lack of fans and such. But you guys have been able to renovate some things around here, correct?
Yeah, So obviously we've updated Victory Lane in many cases. We have a lot of great partners that help us out with that, but we're building a new restroom in the paddock. We're building a new timing and scoring facility at the C-Tech Manufacturing Motorplex. We're adding a lot of cool new fencing for where fans usually like to spectate from. Lots of cool new fan spectating areas, lots of new hospitality areas. We erected a statue dedicated to Cliff Tufte last year next to the paddock shop, which is 7,500 square feet of shopping. Added some new screens, not more screens, just upgraded some of our jumbo screens throughout the facility. There's 7 total. So when you come here, it's a full experience, and a lot of new NASCAR fans and other fans aren't really aware of how Road America works. And when you drive in, you can essentially move throughout the property. Mm-hmm. For NASCAR Cup on Sunday, we're encouraging people to arrive at the gate where they want to park nearest to as far as their viewing location, because once you come in, you're going to be parked. But for other events, you can move about the facility and find other viewing locations. You can walk, you can rent a golf cart. It's probably the only facility in the United States where you can sit under a shade tree and have your feet in the grass and watch racing, world-class racing, you know, not just your average sports car racing. This is Moto America. This is IndyCar. This is NASCAR. This is IMSA. It's just incredible, the schedule that we have lined up, and we couldn't be more excited of really how everybody has embraced the facility. They're outdoors, 640 acres. If you think of a golf course, it's about 100 acres. So we could fit 7 golf courses in here. And how everybody really embraced it and was cognizant of being safe last year. And a lot of new fans, a lot of people wanting to know, hey, I just want live entertainment.
Right.
And they're planning to come back this year because they realized, hey, this is something that's going on. We want to get out. We want to get about. So they purchased more season passes than ever before. And they're doing 4 miles of fitness more than ever before, disc golf more than ever before. We've seen that uptick in a lot of outdoor sports in general, but here especially, it's been really encouraging. And we're very happy about it.
Let's talk. Let's start about the history of the track, because this track has obviously been around a long time. There's a ton of history here. There's a ton of stories, which we could go on forever. But the track itself, for a long time, you guys have been wanting to get the Big Boy Series here, to get the NASCAR Series here. So with the history of the track and the process from point A to point B, how did that go to finally get NASCAR to look over that fence and say, you know what, we've been running Xfinity there. It's time we brought the series here.
Yeah, absolutely. Xfinity's been here since 2010. And honestly, those conversations have been happening since 2010. But it really culminated. A big part of it was last year when NASCAR started to realize, hey, we need to kind of change things up a bit. I mean, you looked at dirt at Bristol. You saw a road course race at Daytona. You've seen other things going on, and the drivers have wanted that. That's what's very encouraging. We did a ton of interviews with drivers during the off season, and drivers wanted that. Drivers wanted some variation. It was really about finding a date and something that worked within that NASCAR schedule. So that those conversations kept going and going and going all through last season, and it finally sort of crystallized right about September when we realized, hey, we could pull this off. We do have an available date. We're not infringing upon any other tracks. And we have a great venue that could support something like this. So we went back to them and said, yeah, we can do this July 1st through the 4th. And they had confidence in us, and we made it happen. And we've got some other big announcements that are happening this week regarding that same event. So we couldn't be more excited. I've been kind of texting back and forth.
I was going to say, nothing you can break here, right?
Nothing we can break here. We're just telling everybody really to stay tuned in, because big stuff is coming, and it's a good problem to have. I wouldn't even say it's a problem. I mean, it's really fun when like all your friends want to come over to your house for a party and your parents don't mind.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you finally get NASCAR here, but let's talk because one of the big things that we were looking for as a new network was we were looking for a venue to intermix with fans. And obviously they still have restrictions in Milwaukee, so you can't go to American Family Field, Lambeau, and Camp Randall and such aren't operational right now. And we've been here for, I don't know, this is, I think, my 18th year being at the track and being here as a part of this, usually broadcasting live here on a Friday. And so we thought there's no better place to unveil the new RV and to unveil a meet and greet than here.
Sure.
So we're excited because we're bringing, I think, like 60 fans that are going to be coming. We're going to be doing some grilling out. Quick Trip obviously has a presence here.
Love Quick Trip.
Yep, no doubt. So they're a big part of this now, but we get a chance to intermingle with fans. But the camping here, and I've told people before, I love getting here on a Thursday, and then it really starts to pick up on Friday, and it's a party.
It is.
Whether it's a family group or whether it's a bunch of people playing giant Jenga with bonfire, it is a party out here. You want to come and camp here, and there's campsites everywhere.
Campsites everywhere, and that's what's really cool is you can find your own little corner of the track, your own little nook, amongst some trees, or you can be right up against the fence where the cars are going by. I mean, I love going around and talking to fans that are in the campsites. Even the drivers camp here. They'll bring their motor coaches, and they all want to camp here a few extra days. That's something you don't hear of. Usually their motor coach comes in and then it takes off, but they bring their families. So I love hearing that because, some people say there's nothing like, the smell of race fuel and in the morning and the sound of the engines to wake up to.
Right.
Our PA guy, Eric Miller, he's hilarious because he kind of like opens the day really quietly, like good morning, Road America. And then, it's kind of just eases back into that. And people look forward to hearing that too.
So he's not a bugler.
No, he's not like Robin Williams from Good Morning Vietnam or anything like that. But, he has a lot of fun with that too. And, our concessions have some of the best breakfast there is. And even the campers really get into cooking crazy breakfasts and awesome food, and you can smell it just wafting throughout the campground. And it's funny because drivers will get on track at like 8 a.m. And I've heard quotes from Ryan Eversley and quite a few others, and they'll be like, yeah, hey man, I was doing my morning practice going through the carousel, and all I could smell was bacon. and I just wanted to pull off and get some bacon and eggs, man, or a breakfast burrito, but I couldn't. I still had like 2 other laps to go, and my crew chief's yelling at me, "You got to get a good time." And you love hearing those stories, and also at the end of the day, when everything's done and the engines are quiet and the guys are in the pits and people are riding around on their scooters and their bikes and whatnot, if you did not hear a car on the racetrack, you would think you're in a national park.
Right.
You would think that you're at probably the coolest campground ever. And that's kind of just where we say, come for the experience and stay for the race. Because I'll tell you, and you'll probably attest to this, is I've been to pro football games with the Packers. I've been to pro baseball games with the Brewers. I've been to Camp Randall. I've been to even other races. And I could probably tell you, I've been to Talladega. I've been to American Family Field. And they played so-and-so. But I probably couldn't tell you what the score was at the end of the game. And I probably could tell you if they won or lost. But I know I had a darn good time.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is here, is that we have a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm going to come to the IMSA race, or hey, I'm going to come to the NASCAR Cup race, or hey, I got a season pass. And they'll come and they're just families and friends. And
it's like a festival.
It's a festival. And then they'll be just like, they don't even really mind.
Right.
Like, I mean, and you have some that are just pinned on the fence and they're really rooting for their favorite guy, or they really want to know timing and scoring, and they're following things on the internet. And that's great too. But you also have people who are just, you see generations of families. You see relatives from far distant away, like relatives from Iowa meeting up with relatives from Michigan, and they just meet here in the middle. And it's really cool to kind of see that. And there's a fun story, even with Mario Andretti, such a cool guy. He was doing 2-seat rides a while back in 2016.
Speaking of Mario, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this on for those watching. Just pay attention, because you're going to see Mario was here a couple of years ago and took me. There he is, and took me on a ride after we had a chance. The suit actually fit me, believe it or not. Had a chance to go out with him. So you can pay attention to that while you continue on and continue to tell me kind of a little bit about Mario.
So here's what's really cool. Philip Wilson, who is a writer for the Indianapolis Star, covers the Colts and also does some stuff for Indy.com. Met up with Mario, and he comes in the press room and he's like, John, I got to tell you this story. I'm like, what? And he says, hey, man, so Mario, we were down, he's doing these 2-seat rides, and he shares this story with us and says, back in the day, probably 1970-ish or whatever, Mario was making a lap. Something went wrong with his car, and it broke down over by turn 3. And he was dejected, takes off his helmet, climbs over the guardrail. There's a family there, and they said, hey, Mario, you want a sandwich? So Mario was like, sure. So they put some Coca-Cola and some provolone and other things on the sandwich, and made him this real nice sandwich. And he's sitting there. Then finally his crew comes around from the outside, picks him up, takes him. Generations later, 2016, 2 or 3 generations later, his family's there. I would say probably 2. It was in the 70s. And they're in turn 3 in 2016 when IndyCar returned here, and Mario was doing the 2-seat rides. So he goes around and he's taking a siding lap doing the 2-seat rides, just like you're seeing here. And he sees these people holding up this sign, and it says, hey, Mario, stop for a sandwich. And it was the same family. So Mario, the next day, Sunday morning, race day, gets on his scooter, heads over to turn 3, and sits down and has a sandwich with the family.
Really?
A couple generations of people, and they have a real nice picture of it. Philip wrote a story for the website. And it's just phenomenal that there's such a wonderful connection with this track. And Mario's even said it's one of his favorite tracks. And he loves it, and he loves being here. And he can drive it like the back of his hand, as you well know, from riding in the car with him.
Yeah, this was, it may not look like you're flying, but at 200 miles an hour, you're motoring. And the one thing they tell you when you do this is to make sure you breathe. And I said, what? And they said, because you'll get so amped up, and the G-forces will pull you down. Yeah. People forget to breathe, and they black out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they said you got to breathe. And
you have to remember to breathe.
Look at how fast, as far as the road and such going by. And when you go up that back, what is it, through the canyon? The kink.
Yeah.
It is. It's amazing the way they hit 200 plus miles an hour. It was an amazing experience to be able to do that.
You get to see it from not only a driver's perspective, but you get to see it from a legendary driver's perspective who has actually won here. He's won a couple times here, and even Michael has won here. Marco would probably be the next in line.
Yeah.
But I don't think Marco plans on doing any road courses this season. But it's really cool to see Mario's still willing to do this. And, you know, and I don't want to say at his age because he still looks like he's about 20 years younger than where he should be. But he's just, he gets out and he smiles from ear to ear. Still gets a chance to really live the dream after so many years at his favorite race course. And it's also cool to kind of see these guys, because just the backdrops, even the backdrop that we have here in the winter circle, you know, you've got the blue sky, the white clouds, the green grass, the green trees, the color differentiation even between the curbing here at Road America.
This is what I consider to be the most exciting. It's race day, fans are all over, and there they go. That's the start of the race, and that's just so cool.
Much better than that. Cool. And what's great about Road America is you can get those views and those vistas from about 19 different locations that I know about. And I'm sure there's probably some fans that have been coming here for years that probably have a good 30 or 40 or even 100 more. And a lot of people think, oh, wow, 640 acres. Oh, no, you know, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. It's going to be hot. It's going to be crazy. You're going to be tired. That's not really the case. You can get around Road America pretty easy. There's some shortcuts to take, you know, various pathways, various walkways. There's a really cool pathway that actually goes along Turn 11 through the kink where you're elevated above the track, so you can really get that visceral sensation of the cars. And that's really cool. That's unheard of. I had a lot of people from IndyCar staff that went down there during that race in 2016. And they said, holy cow, that's the most incredible place to watch from. And then Thunder Valley, and they call it Thunder Valley for a reason, because the sound just reverberates off of the hillsides. When you think about 14 turns, 4 miles, when you think about elevation changes of 171 feet, you talked about the history and how this place was designed. It's just really incredible. It's a driver's track. It's also a fan's track, because Cliff Tufte, who was an engineer back in the 50s, who founded Road America, walked the course. And as he was walking along, he knew various turns from various other famous tracks and even the street races from Elkhart Lake, and he wanted to sort of emulate that. So he would pound in a stake in the dirt, and then he would just keep walking. And when you look at how many turns and how many straightaways there are, it's just it's an incredible menagerie of fun for a driver. And every driver loves that. And they also say it's a very narrow track, and it's a very careful technical track to pass on. And it's kind of funny, because one of the reasons why it's so narrow is in 1955, a road grader was only 16 feet wide. So Cliff did 2 passes with the road grader, and that configuration has never changed since 1955.
Has there ever been a thought of widening the course?
There's been thoughts of widening the course. There's been,
or at least in turns.
In turns, there's been some discussions. Now you will see runoff areas. You will see rumble strips. You will see sand, gravel, safety areas. But the actual race surface is 32 feet wide. So when you think about rules, when you think about passing, and that's what's crazy too, is it doesn't matter if it's IndyCar, it doesn't matter if it's NASCAR. You'll see guys going off course, trying to do something, trying to find a line. But the rumble strips that are there and the various other elements that are there, they'll shake the parts right out of a car. So you don't really want to go off too far or too wide, but it's fun to kind of see these guys try to test the limits.
The neat thing about this track is it's not only just for the fan or for the racer. You guys on the backside of this place have a really unique go-kart course. And that's one of the things on race weekend too, that you just see kids lined up wanting to be able to, even adults for that matter, lined up to be able to go race on that back course.
Kids, adults, and even some pro drivers from time to time. You know, that's another thing that's cool, is if you're camping here on a Thursday night or a Friday night, you know, some of these pro drivers are here in their motorhomes with their families, and they want something to do. So in our earlier days of NASCAR, 2010, 2011, 2012, you'd be down there at the Motorplex on a Friday night, and you'd have 4 or 5 NASCAR drivers standing there in line with their helmets. And these guys get out and they want to battle with each other, you know, like guys like Justin Allgaier, you know, and even when Keselowski was doing Xfinity back then, and you know, all these guys back there, and I'm trying to think of some other names, you know, from back in the day. Carl Edwards, raced Xfinity back in the day, and you think of some of the guys that even won here, you know, Nelson Piquet Jr. or whatnot. They even will ask. I was down at the Motorplex, our go-kart track, with Juan Pablo Montoya.
Oh wow!
Prior to the IndyCar race a couple years ago, and he was just playing around with his remote control cars. He's a big remote control car enthusiast and remote control plane enthusiast. So he had these guys out there from a remote control car company testing these off-road remote controlled trucks. And it was hilarious, because you had all these other NASCAR drivers down there, and they're playing with these remote controlled trucks. And then you have all these fans going, isn't isn't that like Juan Pablo Montoya? You know, isn't that Paul Menard? You know, isn't that? Yeah, it is. As a matter of fact, and the guys were great, and they were signing autographs and talking to the kids. Are leaning on the fence. Guys are signing autographs, talking to these guys. You just don't see that at a big track. You don't see that at a big speedway. You know, because there's safety areas, there's credential areas. Sometimes the pits are cordoned off from the fans. Sometimes when you're a fan and you buy a ticket to a race, you're okay. I've got row 49, seat 3. Section,
and that's where you're at,
and that's where you're at, you know. And nothing against these other tracks and how they kind of have that set up, but that's not how Road America is. So I think that's what's really cool for the fans is that they can come in and go anywhere. They can even go in the paddock, you know, and be right up there against the teams and see the drivers and whatnot. And you see these little kids with 100 signatures on their shirt and in their programs, and you'll see a kid with a tire with like 40 signatures on it, you know, rolling it through the pits. And you just don't see that. And these kids, you know, they'll live with that for years, and they love it. And it's just the coolest thing in the world when you also see a driver on a scooter and he just stops to get an ice cream sandwich at one of our concession stands, you know, and then turns around and goes, hey, and he's in his fire suit, you know, he's like, hey, what do you guys want? There's a funny story with Will Power. We do a campsite contest every race, a lot of our bigger races, where we tell all of our campers, we give them a theme. You know, decorate your campsites like, you know, Independence Day or patriotic or you know, something creative like that.
Right.
And the actual theme one year was IndyCar drivers. So this one campsite made the Will Power Bar. And they, you know, those big heads that they have at college basketball games of the players or even the announcers or whatever, and they hold them up when people are doing free. So they had all these big heads blown up of IndyCar drivers. And they had Will Power's head blown up really, really large. And Will was staying here, like the entire team Penske was staying here. So it was Will Power, Joseph Newgarden, Simon Pagenaud, and a couple others were staying here at the track in their motorhomes. Well, these guys are bored. You know, they've had dinner. It's a beautiful night. Sun doesn't go down until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So they're riding around on their little scooters through the campgrounds. And all of a sudden, you know, Will Power just shows up at the Will Power Bar.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So he was having drinks with these folks and getting pictures next to his big, huge head, you know, and all these guys like, can we get an autograph and this and that? And, you know, you'll hear from families to where they'll say, oh yeah, so-and-so comes over every year and has a beer with us, or so-and-so will come over every year and have a brat or whatever. And it's just, it's fascinating. It's phenomenal. And, you know, it's a testament to racers everywhere. Whether you're a motorcycle racer, whether you're IndyCar, whether you're NASCAR, they love coming to this track. And as a media person myself, it's hard to get a good interview from these guys. And I kind of preface it like good interview. These guys are some of the best interviews ever, but there's nothing controversial. What do you think about Road America? Oh, it's great. It's super. It's my favorite track. Okay. Can you a little bit more?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's awesome. It's super. It's my favorite track. You know, my kids love coming here. So it's, you kind of maybe want them to share something a little different, but at the same time, it's great that they're just so happy and ecstatic to be here. And it's also kind of interesting too, because drivers are really competitive. You know, they want to win, but at the same time, some of them, even if they don't really finish that high, this is kind of their opportunity to relax and unwind. So they're just so happy to be here. They're just like, well, you know, we finished 7th, you know, the car wasn't the best today, or my guys tried real hard and whatever. But, you know, it's just, we still love coming here, and I can't wait to kind of go back and, you know, breathe the fresh air and hang out by my motorhome and, you know, take my kids for a walk in a nice, safe place. And the fans, I mean, you can't ask for traditional Wisconsin hospitality. You know, there's nobody intrusive, and everybody just loves it.
A couple of things. The bar that is up on the hill, and they was it Friday or Saturday nights? They have bands.
Yes,
music will be blaring. I mean, it's great because you're down in that valley below, down where the go-kart track is, and all those campsites are, and you can just sit there and listen to a concert. For some local band playing back.
Yeah, and there's some really great local bands that kind of travel around the area. Pearls on the Hill has bands. A couple other concession stands are getting into that. Like I said, we got some other big announcements coming this week, to where we may have some more entertainment here this summer, and we're very fortunate of that. A lot of the improvements that we're doing here with our PA system, not only in Victory Lane but also in the paddock and along turn 3 and turn 5, is very incredible quality. again, we invest funds back into the facility. So we're getting close to that. One of the things you saw probably rolling out right there was one of our driving schools. We actually have a high performance driving school that's going out on track this evening. And a lot of these people signed up for that. And those are going great too. I mean, if you want to think about something to get out and about, if you have a high performance vehicle or even a vehicle that you want to learn more about, you can go to roadamerica.com and sign up for one of those classes. But these folks that were going by actually have done a lot of careful closed course scrutiny over the past couple days, and now they're getting to get out on the big track. So they're going to turn some laps out there on the big track, and they come in, and some of them will have an instructor with them while they're going, and then others will, once the instructor's confident what they're doing, might let them go out and turn a couple other laps. But it's incredibly controlled. It's a great way to learn the performance characteristics of your vehicle. I mean, nobody wants to buy a C8 Corvette and then wad it up right after they get it out of the dealership.
Right.
And let's be honest, some of these cars that they're making nowadays are incredibly powerful and incredibly affordable. So that's always a good thing to look at when you want to have that experience in a car and you've made that investment. Maybe a couple extra $100 to go to a high performance school and understand when you're getting loose in a turn, or understand that maybe you shouldn't get on it too hard here or there, but also be safe on the roadway. So that's a great thing to do as well. So everything's available at roadamerica.com. Again, motorcycle schools as well. You know, it's warming up and our motorcycle schools are just going right along. And it's incredible when you see so many people getting into motorcycling and learning it safe. I mean, you're a big Harley guy yourself. Yeah. So that's what's really cool about it too, is that we run motorcycle schools practically almost every day, practically almost every night, and also during the weekend. So you can sign up for a class, be here during the motorcycle event, the Moto America event, which is coming up mid-June, and be taking that class, get done with that class, cool off a little bit, peel out of your gear, and then go watch some motorcycle racing. So that's kind of fun too. And it's encouraging to see motorcycle sales doing well. It's encouraging to see more people getting into motorcycling. And it's very encouraging to see so many people wanting to get licensed and do it safely here. So we're very fortunate of that.
I also wanted to ask you about the sprint car.
Sure.
You got the sprint track going to go on during the NASCAR.
Yeah.
How did that come about? Because there's a lot of interest in that as well.
Our president, general manager, Mike Kircher, is a really cool guy. He's a sprint car racer. I probably shouldn't say that. I don't know if he could still race. I kind of even asked him. He raced even a couple of years ago. I said, "Are you going to race this year?" He says, "Oh, I got too much stuff going on." But he's known a lot of track general managers and promoters for years. So he kind of approached Plymouth Dirt Track, because he's been out there quite a bit, and said, "Hey, you know, what do you think about this?" And Plymouth Dirt Track even said, "It's funny you ask, because we have an event. A lot of NASCAR drivers are probably thinking about racing this event. We know Chase Briscoe is going to be there. Usually when there's one, there's more. Tony Stewart's been in it for years. Mm-hmm. Kyle Larson just is amazing." So we said, "Hey, if you're doing something on Thursday night and you're going to have these guys there, let's make sure that we can kind of help each other out a little bit. And we want to see all boats rise with the tide. And we're working with even more tracks throughout the season, because Wisconsin has a huge racing community, a ton of fans. Mm-hmm. And we want to be able to expose these fans to what we do, but also expose some of our fans to what they do. And that's a great opportunity for people to get out to Plymouth Dirt Track on Thursday night, see some incredible sprint car and outlaw racing. They can take a shuttle from the track if they want to, which is really cool too, and then come back. So if you're camping here, a shuttle will be going from gate 4 out to the Plymouth Dirt Track and then coming right back. And if you've never experienced sprint car racing or high winged racing or outlaw racing, just a little bit of word of advice: sit up high in the grandstands.
Mud balls.
Yeah, mud balls. I mean,
yeah.
I went to my first event. I got a big old Coke, and I'm sitting right there on the fence, and I'm thinking, this is great, man. I'm right here, and nobody's sitting around me, and I did not know why. They were all about 5 or 6 rows up. I'm like, you people are crazy. I watched the start, much the same as you did with IndyCar, and they're going around, and then they're coming back around, and then all of a sudden it was like, boom, my Coke was gone, and I was covered with mud. But it was, again, the greatest experience ever, and I learned real quick. So then I got up and I went right up to the top row, and all my buddies were up there just laughing at me. But at the end of the night, I took my shirt off and we nailed it to the side of the garage and had a few more beers and told some more stories.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So if they want tickets, they can go to roadamerica.com for all the information, and just kind of finishing up watching the second run of the Indy 2. Are they doing the Indy 2 seats out here?
Well, you know what? We
during
talked
IndyCar?
about it, and I think we are getting back to that. You know, last year they didn't want to do it because of COVID,
Because of
obviously.
COVID, yeah.
But I think they're getting back to that, and I've seen a couple emails fly around, and it's a wonderful experience to do. I do know that I don't know if they're going to be limiting it a little bit as far as not so many people, but we'll have to see. But if you have the opportunity, I would highly recommend it. And there's 2 cars, and it's a really cool setup that they do. You know, the guys will, one car goes out while the other car is fitting people, and then another car goes out. And it's really cool to do. Sometimes you'll be with Mario Andretti. Sometimes you might be with Ari Lyondike Jr. You never know.
Yeah, it's amazing. For those that don't know, that trip around the track was under 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So you're doing under 2 minutes in 4 miles. And that's just, it's an amazing experience.
And if you look at some of the track records, you know, that's right about where it sits. You know, you're pretty close to, you know, a few seconds, you know, quicker than that, and you're sitting on a track record. So
when they take you out,
there's no slouch.
They're out to run
all.
it. They're out to give you the
deal.
experience. There's no doubt.
And these guys too. It's incredible when you deal with these drivers. They love any time that they can get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
And you can tell a true driver, a true racer, when it doesn't matter if they're given 2-seat rides for a couple hours. It doesn't matter if they're racing a trophy truck. It doesn't matter if they're doing go-karts. I had an opportunity in Indy one time. We did a press conference with Chevrolet, and I was with a couple pro drivers, and we got done with it. And you know, I was kind of chipping them up a little bit about how, you know, all you guys do is just go around in circles and whatever. And, you know, Tony Stewart's even joked, hey, you know, this is my training, and he's, you know, doing the TV remote thing. And so they said, you really think so? Let's go to this go-kart track. And it was an indoor gas-powered go-kart track. And I was being lapped constantly, to the extent that some of these pro drivers were actually passing me while they were unscrewing the gas cap on my go-kart. And then the next day, I'm in the airport. I'm leaving Indianapolis. This is right before the Indy 500. And it was kind of a hush-hush kind of go-kart track sort of deal. But I'm sitting in there, and a couple of these drivers were in the airport. They were going back to do some things right before the race started, and then they were coming back. And I couldn't lift my arms. My arms were so sore.
Right.
You know, and they're like, how you feeling there, rookie? You know, just I'm like, I'm okay. I get it. All right. I'm sorry. I will not really denounce you guys again. They are athletes, especially with IndyCar, with the amount of G's that they pull.
Yeah.
NASCAR as well, the way that they have to set up these cars. They are athletes. A lot of these guys train extensively. The motorcycle guys too. I don't know how they do it. But these guys will cycle actually hundreds of miles a day to stay in shape, much the same as like what you see with, you know, the Tour de France and other things. And it's really incredible what the stamina that they have, the amount of heat that they have to experience. And Justin Allgaier said it on a media tour a couple of years ago. He's a great driver, great spokesman for the sport. How they measure their carbon monoxide levels sometimes after an event with NASCAR drivers, because you know, if you don't have a good kind of insulation in the firewall, you get some of those fumes, or even in your exhaust going underneath the car, and you're in this open roll cage car. And if it's 120 degrees inside the car and maybe 80 something degrees outside, and you're doing 500 laps, it's pretty interesting how quickly you can get overcome, even with the window nets down, and even with ventilation in your helmet. And these guys have to put up with a lot. And it's pretty incredible stuff. So I've developed an appreciation from being in motorsports as many years as I have, and being able to talk with these guys and also talk to folks like you and whatnot. And it's just really fun to kind of come out here and see these guys when not only they're in their element and they're racing, but also when they're just trying to relax, you know, and you know, they'll stop by a campsite, or they'll come up to the media center and hold court. And, you know, those are always my favorite things. And they'll just have a beer with you or whatnot. Robbie Gordon, when he was here with Stadium Super Trucks, came up to the media center.
That's really cool. We haven't even touched on it. And that's one thing that people, I was noticing today when I was on the air, I was mentioning it. People love the Stadium Super Trucks. We got to touch on that before we get out of here.
Well, the Stadium Super Trucks, they won't be back this year because schedules didn't quite pan out. But, you know, it's very popular. Robbie does a great job. He's got the perfect mix. If you took it, and he's raced everything there is. If you took an Indy car, if you took a NASCAR car, if you took a trophy truck and put them into a box and shook it up, a Stadium Super Truck would fall out. He really designed these trucks to be very easy to work on, very easy to repair, very easy to put on a great show. Drivers love racing them. They love jumping them.
Yeah, for those that don't know, they actually come up the hills. They have jumps.
Yep.
They go 10 feet in the air.
They'll go, about 30 to 50 feet in the air and about 100 feet down course. And they just put on an incredible show. So anywhere in the country, if you hear about Stadium Super Trucks supporting an event, I would definitely go see him if you haven't seen him already. And he's just developed a magical formula, and he's a true promoter. He's a true nice guy. We had him here, and he finished off an event, and it's so cool. He would put a kid in his own truck and drive the kid back to the pits, and he was very calm to the mom and dad. He's like, "Do you mind if your son rides with me?" Yeah. And this kid will remember that forever,
right?
And the parents go down to the pits, and he gives them a sweatshirt and takes pictures with them. And, and it's setting those memories in place. And I think a lot of these drivers know that now. A lot of these drivers are dads themselves.
Right.
And they know that their kids are impressionable, but also their fans' kids are impressionable. And that's what you really see here, too. It's just such a wonderful family fun event. And it's so cool to hear stories of people being here in the 60s and 70s and then coming back with their dads and then coming back with their kids and then generations of kids, or, hey, my dad brought me and I'm bringing my daughter, or, my mom and dad brought me, and I grew up in turn 5, and I raced for a little while, but then I
might have been conceived in turn 3.
Yeah, you never know. That's the whole thing too, is that you hear some stories too, like parents have an old 1956 Nomad, and they used to park over there in turn 3, and that's how so-and-so came about.
Exactly.
So,
well, if people want the schedules online, you go to roadamerica.com. That's roadamerica.com. It starts next week, this weekend.
This
weekend, you got racing.
Yeah.
And then the beginning of June, you've got the SCCA June Sprints, and then the Motor America Superbike Series, which is, if you're a motorcyclist, you got to come up and see. And then you get IndyCar on June 17th, and a couple of weeks later, NASCAR is here. You go all the way through the International Challenge. IMSA is going to be here, World Challenge, and then you get down to the Vintage Weekend before it's all said and done. Man, roadamerica.com. That's roadamerica.com for tickets, all the information for camping, although most of the sites are pretty much gone. There are some left for IndyCar.
There's a ton of campsites. It's just NASCAR, start thinking ahead, really. I mean, campsites are filling up. Definitely parking on Sunday. Get going now. But a lot of other events, let's say if you didn't get the campsite of your choice for NASCAR, don't give up. You can get a great campsite for IndyCar. You can get a great campsite for IMSA. So it's still great to experience. But I tell you, I can't say it enough. For NASCAR, buy now. Buy more than you need, and give them to your friends, because they're going to run out.
There you go. That's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. Great to talk to you, man. I appreciate it.
Always so much fun. And I love your setup again. I love everything you do. Love having you here. And love that you got to be able to see our new Victory Lane today.
Right. Good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for paying attention to us. Everybody that's on the Bud Light live stream paying attention to us via Quick Trip as well. Time for us to go. Until we talk again, have a good one. We'll talk to you on Friday in the live stream up at the Four Seasons Island Resort.